The weather was fair, and the sea was calm. At approximately 10 a.m. on May 4th, 1982, HMS Sheffield was on defense watch, operating as a forward anti-aircraft picket west of the main task force southeast of the Falklands. But in a matter of minutes, pandemonium broke loose. The flagship of the British task force, HMS Hermes, received a distressing report. The situation was chaotic, and it took some time for the authorities to get a clear picture of what had happened. Suddenly, a Lynx helicopter from Sheffield landed aboard Hermes. The air operations and operations officers unboarded on the deck and finally clarified the situation. Sheffield was hit by Argentinian aircraft. Mouse ears. HMS Sheffield, the second Royal Navy ship to be named after the city of Sheffield, was a Type 42 guided missile destroyer. Ordered in 1968, she was laid down on January 15, 1970. During her construction, an explosion damaged a section of her hull, which was replaced with a section from an identical ship, ironically being built for the Argentine Navy. Sheffield was launched on June 10, 1971, and was the first of her class. She was initially fitted with the odd-looking Mickey Mouse ears, which were exhaust deflectors for the Rolls-Royce Olympus TM3B gas turbines. However, as this made her a prominent target for infrared homing missiles, only Sheffield and the next two in the class had these ears. As the first of her class, Sheffield spent her first years trying out new systems like the Sea Dart missile system. Although she was commissioned in early 1975, it was not until 1980 that she became effective, after the Sea Dart and electronic warfare systems were at least partially installed. However, significant design issues were identified with the ship's radar, and therefore the control and targeting of the Sea Dart missiles. The ship also lacked an electronic countermeasures or ECM jammer. Regardless, when duty called in 1982, Sheffield sailed as part of Task Force 317 to the Falkland Islands, where a conflict awaited. Joining the fight. In 1982, tensions between Argentina and the United Kingdom escalated, leading to the Argentine invasion of the Falklands. As a result, the Royal Navy ordered HMS Sheffield to join the task force being assembled to retake the islands. On April 2nd, Sheffield was ordered to prepare for deployment. Ammunition and supplies were loaded onto the ship, loose fittings were stowed, and unnecessary items were removed. The ship's crew took measures to prevent Sheffield from being mistaken for the Argentine Hércules and Santísima Trinidad. One of the solutions included painting a vertical black marking on the funnel and down to the side to her waterline for easy recognition. After making these preparations, Sheffield departed for the South Atlantic on the 10th, accompanied by other Royal Navy vessels, including HMS Arrow, HMS Brilliant, HMS Coventry, and HMS Glasgow, as well as RFA Appleleaf. They reached Ascension Island on April 14th, before joining other vessels of Task Force 317 to begin operations in the total exclusion zone around the Falklands on May 1st, 1982. It didn't take long for the fighting to break out. On the morning of May 4th, an Argentine Naval Aviation Lockheed SP-2H Neptune patrol aircraft detached the vessel precisely at 7:50 a.m., marking the beginning of an unfortunate turn of events. Keeping the British ships under surveillance, Neptune verified Sheffield's position again at 8:14 and 8:43 a.m. Meanwhile, two Argentine Navy Super Étendards were prepped and ready, each armed with AM-39 Exocet missiles. False alarm. Although intelligence briefings had identified the possibility of an Exocet attack by Super Étendards, for the previous 2 days, Sheffield had assessed the Exocet threat as overrated and disregarded it as another false alarm. In the meantime, the Argentinian pilots had been practicing tactics against their own ships for the 2 weeks leading up to the attack, notably Type 42 destroyers, just like Sheffield. They understood her radar horizon, detection distances, and reaction times of the radar, in addition to the optimal procedure to program the Exocet missile for a successful attack profile. Using the pecking the lobes technique, they could probe the side lobes of the emitting radar using the radar warning receiver. Plus, the aircraft could avoid detection by avoiding the main lobe of the emitting radar. At 10:35 a.m., the Neptune climbed to 1,170 meters. Detecting one large and two medium-sized contacts, the Neptune immediately updated the super-étendards with the enemy positions. Both super-étendards, flying at very low altitudes, climbed to verify these contacts, and after a few seconds of scanning, the targets appeared on their radar screens. Both pilots loaded the coordinates into their weapon systems, returned to a low level, and after last-minute checks, each launched an AM-39 Exocet missile. Air warning. The incoming enemy aircraft were not detected flying at 30 meters, as the radar could not detect low-flying aircraft. They were only spotted at a distance of 74 kilometers by the UAA-1, a radar warning receiver, which was confirmed by Glasgow's long-range aircraft warning. Glasgow immediately went to action stations and communicated the warning code word handbrake to all task force ships. However, Invincible dismissed the radar contacts as false, so they left the air warning at yellow instead of raising it to red. An order to stand was issued to the gunners. The aircraft were detected on the forward radar, but not on the aft set. Sheffield's UAA-1 sensor was blocked at the time by an unauthorized transmission by the ship's satellite communication systems. The first Exocet missile was fired within 7 seconds, and in response, Glasgow fired its chaff. On board Sheffield, the crew did not realize they were under attack until the missile's smoke was sighted by the lookouts. The bridge officers did not take any evasive measures, make any preparations, or call action stations. 2 Exocets had been launched, and the second missile was sighted by Yarmouth, missing Sheffield and splashing into the sea off her port beam. The first missile struck Sheffield on the starboard side at deck level 2, creating a hole in her hull roughly 1.2 by 3 meters, and disabling the ship's electrical distribution systems while breaching the pressurized seawater fire main. These circumstances compounded and severely hampered the crew's firefighting response, eventually dooming the ship to be consumed by the fire. The high seas. Sheffield's crew fought hard for almost 4 hours to save the ship. Unfortunately, the primary firefighting systems were inoperable due to the loss of the fire main, so the crew had to resort to using portable electrically powered pumps and buckets. But the firefighting was uncoordinated. No emergency headquarters had been established, and crew members were unclear as to where command was located. From the outside, Arrow and Yarmouth assisted in the firefighting, to no avail. As time went on, the risk of fires igniting the Sea Dart magazine increased. Furthermore, the loss of combat capability and the vulnerable position to air attack of Arrow and Yarmouth left little option but to abandon ship. As the ship drifted for the next 6 days, 5 inspections were made to see if any equipment was worth salvaging. As the burnt-out hulk was being towed by Yarmouth, the high seas flooded through the hole in the ship's side. Listing to starboard, Sheffield rolled over and sank on the edge of the total exclusion zone on May 10th. It was the first Royal Navy vessel sunk in action after World War II. Critical deficiencies. For 35 years, the reasons for the ship's unpreparedness during the attack were hidden. However, the report of the Board of Inquiry into the loss of Sheffield was finally declassified, revealing the failings that led to the tragedy. At the time of the hit, the captain was off duty in his cabin, and the anti-air warfare officer was in the wardroom while his assistant was in the head. As The Guardian recounted, the Board of Inquiry found 2 officers guilty of negligence, but they did not face disciplinary action or court-martial to avoid undermining the country's euphoria at the end of the war. In 2006, the Ministry of Defense released a heavily redacted summary of the board's findings, concealing key conclusions and criticisms. The board also warned of critical deficiencies in the firefighting equipment aboard Type 42 destroyers such as Sheffield. Apparently, the anti-air warfare officer's mistake was based on his misreading of an intelligence assessment of the threat. The assessment arrived in a difficult-to-comprehend bundle of papers. Although the ship's company was aware of the Exocet missile threat, they were unaware that the aircraft could refuel in mid-air. Therefore, some believed Sheffield was beyond the range of the super-étendard aircraft. The board also found Sheffield's captain and his second-in-command had little or no relevant recent surface ship experience. During the attack, no one called the captain, and the ship did not go to action stations, fire off chaff, or turn toward the incoming missiles. Furthermore, some of the ship's weapons were unmanned. Making matters worse, no attempt was made to shoot down the incoming missiles. The general conclusion of the investigation was that had the crew been adequately prepared, the tragedy could have been averted. Thank you for tuning in to Dark Seas. Give us a like, and remember to subscribe to our channel for more stories of the great naval battles of our time. And if you're hungry for even more military content, our Dark Documentaries channels have you covered. We can't wait to share more with you soon, so hit that bell button.